Oh, hello. Welcome to episode 12 of the Top 2 Inches Rugby podcast, sponsored by I Spy Surveys, the go-to specialist survey and inspection company based in Exeter, Devon. So, we are obviously on Twitter, as I've mentioned before, at the Top 2 Inches RP. So if you'd like to give us a follow on there, that would be fantastic. Maybe drop us some messages, which some of you already had done. Comment on some of the stuff we're doing. Obviously, the podcast is available each week on various platforms such as Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. We are also on Instagram now, obviously, as we say, the Top 2 Inches Rugby podcast. So go over to there, give us a follow, and see what we're all about. So, what is coming up on the show this week? Well, we'll be reviewing the second round of the Heineken Cup and the Challenge Cup. As we did last week, it will just be looking at the English teams that took part. Unfortunately, Ollie won't be here this week to help me with that, so potentially the episode will be a little bit shorter, which some of you might be happy with. He is currently doing some late night or last minute shopping. We will also check in on the ladies game, see what happened, see if Harlequins ladies are still on top of the table, or have they been caught by Saracens ladies? Who knows? We'll find out. We'll also look ahead to the restart of the Premiership and the Fantasy Rugby. So it just leaves me to say, on with the episode. Okay, so this weekend saw round 2 of the Heineken Cup. We were looking forward to some thrilling encounters. And I just want to kind of give an overview of what kind of happened. Obviously, as I've said before, we only kind of want to look at how the English teams got on. But I do think it's important to mention, given the current circumstances around COVID, several games, unfortunately, were cancelled. Which ones were cancelled again? So, Scarlets and Toulon. Now, although Scarlets actually had a positive test in their camp, and Toulon were already over in Wales, Toulon actually decided to pull out of the game, and the Scarlets were awarded the win, obviously with a bonus point as well. Glasgow versus Lyon, that was a game that was also cancelled because of COVID tests positives in the Glasgow team, and again Lyon were handed the victory. Bath, unfortunately, again another team against La Rochelle. That game was called off because of COVID, and La Rochelle were given the win. And the one that we were all looking forward to was the Exeter Chiefs against Toulouse. Unfortunately, obviously, the Chiefs had several positive tests for COVID, and that game was called off. It's not looking good for the Chiefs. It's going to be tricky, I think, now for them to get out of the group stages. They're going to have to go to Toulouse next week, in January, and get a victory over there. And they're also going to have to get a victory against Edinburgh, Glasgow, which they could do quite easily. But how the structure of the competition is, they could, the defending champions might not make it out of the group. Okay, so I have seen a lot of highlights, and I am going to start with the game between Harlequins and Racing 92. I mean, at the Stoop, the game ended 49-7 to Harlequins. Oh, sorry, it is literally the Christmas week and I'm getting myself completely muddled. 49-7 win to Racing 92. It was a bloody good game, to be fair. I mean, Harlequins just didn't look in it at all. It was a real tough afternoon for them. Racing just looked on fire. Teddy Thomas scored a fantastic try. Finn Russell was pulling the strings all over the place, and Racing looked really, really good. And it's 2 losses now for Harlequins, so that's pretty much them done and dusted in terms of the competition. Bristol against Connacht. Bristol came away with a 27-18 win over in Ireland. Obviously, Pat Lam, going back to his old stomping ground in Connacht. It was a really good game. Connacht just kind of didn't give up. They kept plugging away, and Bristol scored some really good tries. Piers O'Connor's one was particularly good, and they ran out winners in the end. So Bristol, I believe, after one win and one loss, are still in the hunt. Moving on, we're going to have a look at Sale and Edinburgh. Sale got off to a really good early lead through Denny Solomona, but Richard Cockrell's team just kept plugging away. I think realistically, Sale should have won the game. They were at home, but like I said, Richard Cockrell has obviously done some really good stuff up in Edinburgh, and they stayed in the fight and took the win away from Sale. A really, really good game between Gloucester and Ulster. It was really exhilarating. Probably one of the best games of the second round. Gloucester came away victorious with a 38-34 win, which means they are still in the hunt to to possibly get out of the group stages. Ulster, I think, if I remember rightly, lost the week before. Yes, they did, to Toulouse. So that is probably them done for the competition, really, and unlikely to get out of that group stage. A fantastic win right at the death, 84th minute. Gloucester kind of get the winning try and take the points. Leinster Northampton was closer than most people expected. I, for one, and I think Ollie did as well when we were talking last week, thought that Leinster were going to probably put 50 on Northampton, and they certainly came close, but Northampton very much stayed in the game. They put in a really good performance, I felt, despite the loss, and there's something to work on for them, I guess, is probably what is what you'd say, but ultimately 2 defeats for them, and that's them out of the competition, really. And that was it, I think, for the Heineken Cup for the English teams. So moving on to the European Challenge Cup, Worcester, unfortunately, I haven't seen highlights of these. Worcester lost to the Ospreys 38-29. Looks like quite a high scoring game. I did see a little bit of highlights between Leicester and Bayonne. Leicester coming away again with their second victory, 28-20 away in France. When I mentioned this to Ollie, he was like, well, they are playing in the B League, so what do you expect? I don't know. The highlights I saw of Leicester, I think they looked pretty good, to be fair, and hopefully, Borthers is putting on a bit of a, his tactics and his team management, etc., are coming forward more, and the Leicester team is coming together more as a cohesive unit. So it was quite a good win for Leicester, I think, despite what Ollie said. And also London Irish recorded their second victory with a nice 26-17 win against Poe, not Pow, blimey. And I haven't even been drinking. So yeah, that was the roundup of the Heineken and the European Champions Cup. And obviously this is now the next games will be played in January of 2021. Okay, so round 9 of the Allianz Premier 15 saw some interesting fixtures at the weekend. None other than the Bristol Bears away at DMP Durham Sharks. Bristol ended the year with a big win on the road at Darlington Arena. They racked up 50 points against the Sharks. Took the lead after 3 minutes to get on the scorecard. Courtney Kite finished off a well-worked move from the Bristol backline, and they doubled their lead 10 minutes later when Alicia Butchers crashed over from close range. Phoebe Murray then scored a fine solo effort. She broke through the DMP midfield, dotting down in the corner. That was followed up by a score from returning Lucy Burgess, who wrapped up the bonus points within the first 30 minutes of the game. Murray and Butchers then both went over for their second tries of the afternoon. Early in the second half, loosehead prop Simi Pam Then followed up with a fantastic 40-metre sprint to the line to extend the lead, and then Kaylee Powell finished off a fine performance with the Bears sprinting down the touchline. She went flying over in the corner. Beth Blacklock was a lady that got a late penalty for the Sharks, so they weren't nilled, but it was really an impressive performance by the Bears. They definitely bounced back this weekend after last week's defeat to Worcester Warriors. The next game we're going to have a look at is Wasps ladies against Gloucester. Wasps recorded their 7th victory of the season with a bonus point win over Gloucester Hartpury. Mather's side got off to a dream start when Maud Murr powered over with just 1 minute on the clock. Gloucester Hartpury's fly half George narrowed the deficit with a penalty on 15 minutes, but the Wasps led 2 minutes. But the Wasps extended their lead 2 minutes later when Abby Dow scored in the corner on her 50th appearance for the club. Williams then weaved her way through the Hartpury defence to score after good work from Ollie. But the visitors had the last say in the first half as Brox crashed over to narrow the deficit to 9 points at the break. 5 minutes into the second half, Kildun again added to her impressive try tally for the season, with a score that secured the bonus point. In the dying minutes of the games, Blackburn snuck over through the Wasp defence to saw Gloucester Hartpury's second try of the match. Wasp victory sees them finish the year in 3rd place as they continue to chase Harlequins and Saracens. Exeter Chiefs, Appleby side played in front of the fans at Sandy Park for the first time this season, which was fantastic, and treated the fans to a fantastic performance against their fellow kind of league team, Sale Sharks. Chiefs captain Linda van der Velden scored Exeter's first from the back of the scrum after 14 minutes. Then on the half-hour mark, Cacho charged down the Chiefs on the way to score a try, and Japan International finished off on a rolling ball after a series of phrases close to the Shark line. 3 minutes into the second half, Garcia sent the pinpoint kick across field towards Makinda, whose superb take and finish saw the Chiefs open up a 17-point gap. Hunt went over for the bonus point on 55 minutes after a long period of pressure from the Chiefs pack, and Gabby Contarona's conversion took the score to 24-0 with 15 minutes to go. Alex Powell added another after a series of carries from the Chiefs pack, and that was followed up by a last-minute try from Zachary, who exploited the gap down the wing, and the Sharks defence went through the Sharks defence to score the 6th try of the afternoon for the Chiefs. So fantastic there for the Chiefs faithful in the crowd, with the ladies put on a good performance. So the next game up was a fantastic game between top of the table teams. Saracens and Loughborough Lightning finished 24-29 with a victory going to Saracens. It was very touch and go from both sides, and there was a lot of red roses on display. Poppy Clear was obviously playing. I didn't actually see the highlights for this one, so I can't really comment too much other than it was a fantastic performance really from both teams, with just Saracens edging it out. And I think if I'm right, the next game will be against top of the table Harlequins, but I could be wrong. I'll have to double check that one. The next game was actually closer than I thought it was going to be. Harlequins obviously have ended up top of the table for the year. They had a bonus point win against Worcester Warriors at 6th. Heather Cow opened up the scoring after 13 minutes, taking an inch-perfect pass from Rachel Burford and beating 2 defenders to finish in the corner. Leanne Riley's quick thinking saw Quins double their lead 15 minutes later as the Red Roses scrum half took a quick tap and go to go and fly under the post. Jess Breach then danced away through the Warriors' defence to score the Quins' 3rd try just before the break, and the visitors had a commanding lead at half-time, 17-point lead. Mullins' side then started the second half as they ended the first, as Breach darted over for a second try, bringing up the bonus point as well. But then a fine second half display from Worcester saw them claw their way back, first through a try from a driving line out, and then through a close range drive from Abby Kershaw. The hosts then continued to apply the pressure in search of losing bonus point, but Harlequins held out for the win and to maintain their 100% record at the halfway stage of the season. So well done to the Harlequins ladies, but also well done to Worcester Warriors for making a game of it. So let's just have a look at the table and how it stands. Obviously we have Harlequins on top of the table, followed by Saracens, and Wasps, as I've said, have been impressive and finished the year in third place. Then we have Loughborough Lightning on 29 points, followed by Gloucester Heartbreeze. Great to see Exeter Chiefs ladies at mid-table. So far they've played 8, won 3, lost 5. Next is Bristol Bears, then Worcester Warriors, Sale Sharks, and unfortunately for DMP, they are bottom of the table with 7, played 7, lost 7, and don't have any points at all. Interesting, they have only scored 17 points but have conceded 476. So it's a real tough season for the Durham Sharks. Okay, so as I said in the introduction to this week's episode, next week sees the return of the Gallagher Premiership. Boxing Day is the day, an all-out game between every team in the league, and we're going to start with Bath at home against London Irish, kicking off at 2 o'clock. Bath obviously have come off a couple of defeats, well, one defeat and one cancelled game in the Heineken Cup, whilst London Irish have had 2 impressive performances in the Challenge Cup. I actually think London Irish are on good form and could potentially nick a win at the Rec on Boxing Day. I would think that Ollie might think the same, but no doubt, as it's Bath, I would expect him to say that Bath would win, and I think they need to win. Otherwise, they are going to be too far down the bottom of the table for his liking. Kick-off again, the next game, 2 o'clock, is Bristol against Harlequins. Harlequins obviously coming off 2 bad defeats in the Heineken Cup, and Bristol having won 1, lost 1. Quins obviously do play a lot better at home, and Bristol can be a little bit inconsistent at times. I would suggest that this would be a Bristol win. I think they might they'll just have a little bit too much for Harlequins. I think it will be close though, and I think they're probably, there won't be a great deal in it, maybe 7 points at the most. So that's going to be an interesting one. Next game, again, 2 o'clock kickoff on Boxing Day, is Leicester Tigers away at Newcastle Falcons. So Leicester have recorded 2 good victories in the Challenge Cup. Falcons have won 1, lost 1. Obviously, Newcastle have started the season off fantastic, near the top of the table with 2 victories, 2 or 3, and are going really well. Leicester have had a win and a defeat. So it is going to be an interesting one. Again, one that I'm not 100% sure I can call. Obviously would love Leicester Tigers to go up to Newcastle and take the victory, but I think they're going to be in for a stern test up there. Obviously, I'd imagine that Leicester will have quite a few internationals either starting or on the bench. So I guess it just depends how well they gel back into the team. But obviously Newcastle are on good form. I'm going to say Tigers to win, but probably only by about 3, maybe 6 points. Exeter Chiefs against Gloucester is a 3 o'clock kickoff at Sandy Park. Assuming that Exeter Chiefs play, I think it will be a Chiefs victory. Obviously, I'm not 100% sure which players have tested positive for COVID and if they've been given the all clear. Obviously, Gloucester did have quite a good victory over the weekend against Ulster, but I think it's Exeter at Sandy Park. It's going to be a Chiefs win. And the final one on Boxing Day at 4:30, Northampton Saints against Worcester Warriors at Franklin's Gardens. Well, Worcester, I think, have had 2 losses in the Challenge Cup, and Saints have obviously had 2 defeats as well, but I did think Saints showed a little bit more than they have done lately against Leinster, despite losing. I mean, it's a game realistically that both teams really need to win, and both teams will be targeting for the win. I think potentially at home that could be. Oh, mind you saying that, there's probably no fans allowed in the stands. I'm going to say Worcester win, but again, I think it's going to be close. Just looking at this round of matches, that I think they're all going to be quite close matches, and again, it just kind of emphasises how tough the Gallagher Premiership is this season. So it should be an interesting weekend ahead. So as we know, Ollie is currently about 200 points, I think, maybe a little bit less than 200 ahead of me in the Fantasy League. I'm not sure what I will do this week. I'm not going to divulge too much because no doubt he will listen to the podcast. So yeah, fingers crossed. We'll see how the Fantasy Rugby pans out on Boxing Day. Okay, so that was episode 12 of the Top 2 Inches Rugby podcast. It will be the last podcast of the year in existence, 2020. Cannot wait to say goodbye to you. Thank you very much to the listeners that tune in, to all the people that have just taken time and listened to me initially and then Ollie jointly rambling on about what we think about rugby. We're going to continue to bring you the podcast into 2021, and hopefully you will all continue to tune in and enjoy what we talk about. As I said, we are on Twitter at Top 2 Inches Rugby Podcast, so give us a follow on there. We're also on Instagram at Top 2 Inches Rugby Podcast. So again, give us a follow on there, send us some messages, give us reviews. If you like us, tell us you like us. As I've said before, all the episodes can be found on a variety of platforms such as Anchor, Apple Podcast, YouTube and Spotify. And we are sponsored by I Spy Surveys, the go-to specialist survey and inspection company based in Exeter, Devon. So it just leaves me to say from myself and Ollie, Merry Christmas. I hope you have an enjoyable time. Be merry, enjoy what you have, enjoy the people that you can have around you. Hopefully Santa is kind and brings you a lot of presents. And we will see you for episode 13 in the new year. Merry Christmas. You filthy animals.